Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to knit the Valley Beanie in sizes newborn and 0 to 3 months. This is the newborn beanie. It's my take on the classic ribbed hat. It's just a simple knit 1 purl 2 rib with a matching folded brim. This hat is super cute. It knits up so quickly. It looks great for boys and girls. All you need is some number 4 medium worsted weight yarn and circular knitting needles. So all of the details are in the description below for you. This is the 0 to 3 month beanie. So the newborn and 0 to 3 month hat are knit the exact same number of cast on stitches, same decrease. The only difference is in the needle size and the length to which that you knit the brim and body of the hat. So like I mentioned earlier, be sure to view the description below so that you can follow along. If you like this hat, the good news is I have sizes newborn all the way through adult available for free on my blog. So if you'd like to knit this beanie in a different size, feel free to go and check it out. Okay, let's get started. So for the newborn hat, we are going to be using US 6 4mm 16-inch circular knitting needles. If you're doing the 0 to 3 months, you're going to want to use a US 8 5mm needle. And either way, we are going to start with a slip knot, like so. And then we are going to need to cast on 54 stitches total. I prefer to use the not the magic loop, the long tail cast on method, but you can use any method to cast on that you prefer. So right here, this is our working yarn. That is the yarn that is attached to our skein, right there. And then back here, that is our long tail, which we are going to use to cast on our stitches. Okay, so there are different ways of joining in the round. I like to use what is called the invisible join method. So to do the invisible join method, you are going to have to cast on 1 additional stitch. So we're going to cast on an extra stitch here. So now we have 55 stitches altogether. So to do the invisible join, you're going to use the tip of your right hand needle and slip that first stitch from the left hand needle onto the right hand needle. Okay, and then take that last stitch, that extra stitch you cast on, and slip it over, over that slipped stitch, and then drop it. Okay, and then what I like to do is turn my work and just tie a little knot at the join. And this just helps to make sure that it stays nice and secure. Okay, and so now you can see that we have joined our round, and now we can place our stitch marker and begin working our pattern. So for the brim, it is going to be a simple purl 1, knit 2, all the way around. So if you are doing a newborn baby hat, you are going to purl 1 and knit 2 for 12 rounds. If you are working a 0 to 3 month hat, you are going to purl 1, knit 2 for 14 rounds. But either way, it's going to look like this. Bring your working yarn to the front. You're going to go in purlwise into that first stitch. Purl 1. Bring your working yarn to the back and knit the next 2 stitches. Knit 1, knit 2. And that is it. We're just going to repeat. Purl 1, knit 2. Oops. 1, 2. And for the newborn and 0 to 3 month hat, your stitches may be a little bit tight in the beginning, so I'm having to kind of move them along as we go, but that should get easier and easier as you continue working your hat. So we purl 1, knit 2. Once you finish knitting your brim, I will meet you for the body of the hat, and I will show you what to do next. So once you finish your brim, it should look a little something like this. It's just a simple purl 1, knit 2, and this is actually going to be a folded brim beanie. It's just really tiny because it's newborn. So when we begin the body of our hat, we are just going to do the reverse. So instead of purling 1, knitting 2, the body of the hat is going to be made up of a knit 1, purl 2. And the reason for this is I wanted the brim to match the body of the hat when it was folded upwards. So in order to achieve that consistency, we had to do the inverse when we created the brim. So let me unfold it for you. You can see the brim, we've got a purl 1, knit 2 pattern. Okay. For the body, we have a knit 1, purl 2. And this is by design. So I just didn't want to confuse anybody. I wanted to show you so you can kind of understand how the beanie is made. Okay, so getting back to the body of our beanie, and this is going to be the same for any size hat that you make. So the body of the hat, we're moving from purling 1, knitting 2 to knitting 1, purling 2. So we're going to go into that first stitch here. We're going to knit that first stitch and then purl the next 2 stitches. One, 2. Okay, and repeat. Knit 1, purl 2. 1, 2. Knit 1, purl 2. As you continue knitting up the body of your hat, you're going to notice this little transition between the brim and the body of your hat. And it's going to create this natural crease line, which will actually help to keep your beanie brim folded up and stay in place. So that's a little extra bonus thrown in there for you. That wasn't intentional, but I like how it worked out. I'm just finishing up here with that knit 1, purl 2, 1, 2. So you are going to just continue working the body of your hat until it reaches the desired length. So for newborn, you want to repeat until your hat measures 4.5 inches with the brim folded. So that's important to note. You're going to measure your beanie with your brim folded at that crease, and then you're going to knit the newborn hat until it is 4.5 inches in length, and then knit the 0 to 3 month hat until it is 5.5 inches in length. Just make sure that that brim is folded when you measure. So yep, just continue repeating that body pattern, knit 1, purl 2, until you've reached the length that you desire for this project. Okay, so since for this video I'm working the newborn beanie, I am just going to check that my measurements are where I want them to be. So with that brim folded, I'm going to take my measuring tape and just double check. So from the top of our beanie, We're going to measure down to the edge of the brim, so I'm at exactly 4.5 inches, which is where I want to be for the newborn beanie. Again, if you're doing 0 to 3 months, knit until it measures 5.5 inches with the brim folded. Once you are happy with the length, you are ready to begin decreasing your beanie. So for round 1 of the decrease, we are going to knit 1, purl the next 2 stitches together. So bring our working yarn to the front, purl those 2 stitches together. Then we will knit 1, purl 2. So that is round 1 of the decrease. You're just going to repeat those steps until you make it back to your stitch marker. Again, we will knit 1, purl 2 together, knit 1, purl 2. And at some point, your stitches are going to become too tight, so you will either need to switch to a longer cord to do the magic loop method, or switch to double pointed needles, however you like to decrease. For round 2 of the decrease, we will knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 2 together. Start with that knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 2 together. And that's it for round 2. You are just going to repeat those steps until you make it back to the stitch marker. Okay, we are ready to begin round 3 of our decrease. So my stitches got too tight. I switched to a longer cord and I am using the magic loop method. So for round 3, we are going to be knitting 2 together through the back loop, knitting 1 and purling 1. So the reason why I'm knitting 2 together through the back loop is to hide that purl bump. You see here, this is our first knit stitch. This is our second stitch. It has a purl bump. So if I were to knit them together through the front loop, normally that purl bump would be on top and it would be much more prominent and make our work look a lot messier and not as tidy. So knitting through the back loop of those first 2 stitches will place the first knit stitch over the purl bump and it will hide it, and this will give us a tidier decrease. So normally you knit 2 together through the front loop and your right hand needle will stick out through the back of the loops. To knit 2 together through the back loop, we are going to go into the back loops of the first 2 stitches like that. So we will knit 2 together through the back loop. And you can see that that first knit stitch is going to lay over the purl bump, hiding it, making our work look so much nicer. Nobody wants a messy decrease. Then we will knit 1, and purl 1. So one more time, we will knit 2 stitches together through the back loop. So go in through the back loops of our stitches. Then knit 1, purl 1. And just repeat those steps until you make it back to the stitch marker, and I will show you what to do for round 4. For round 4 of the decrease, we will knit 2 stitches together through the back loop and purl 1 all the way around. So we will start with inserting our right hand needle through the back loops of those first 2 stitches, knit them together, then bring your working yarn to the front and purl the next stitch. And that is it. You're just going to repeat those steps until you make it back to your stitch marker. Knit 2 together through the back loops, purl 1. We are on round 5 of our decrease. This is our 5th and final round. So all we are going to do is knit 2 together through the back loop all the way around until we make it back to our stitch marker. So first we will go in through the back loop of those first 2 stitches, and hopefully this is familiar to you by now. Knit through the back loop. The next one, knit those 2 stitches together through the back loop. And just keep working until you make it back to your stitch marker. Okay, so now we are going to pull that yarn tight so that we can cinch our beanie, and it should close up nicely at the top. Then what I like to do is take my needle, and in the top loops of the beanie, I like to run that yarn through all along that top center portion. And I just kind of go under those loops that form, they bunch up at the top. And doing this just helps to make sure that the beanie is nice and secure. I like to pull it as I go. And then I go down the center of my beanie. Oop, pull that yarn through. Then I turn the hat inside out. And I do the same thing on the underside. So I go in with my needle, just like I did on the top side, and I run the needle through the loops that bunch up at the center of the beanie, making sure that it is nice and secure. And then I like to just go into that last loop and create a little double knot. And I just tie off the beanie like that. And lastly, I'm just going to weave in my ends. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you make one of these cute little baby beanies. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to learn how to make this hat in other sizes, go check out my blog, griswoldknits.com, and you will find all the information there. If you enjoy my patterns and tutorials, please like, subscribe, and share. As always, be well, and I will see you in the next one.
And of course you can't become if you only say what you would have done. So I missed a million miles of